Recording in progress.
We will begin in 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a council meeting of February 9th, 2026. Everyone that can, please rise for the playing of the national anthem. Niagara Region and Grimsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara and the Town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Charwa. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Charwa. Resolved that the agenda for the February 9th, 2026 council meeting be approved. All in favor? That's carried.
Councillor, yeah. She wanted to pull something.
I thought you wanted to do it, but don't you do it there? already been lifted, yes. All right, Regional Chair Bob Gale is here this evening with greetings for council. Regional Chair, please come to the podium. Good evening.
Good, thank you. We're good, okay. Good evening, Mayor, and thank you very much, all of you, for having me here, and staff, and my daughter and Michelle Seaborn are here. But this is my traveling roadshow. I've been going around. When I first was appointed on December 18th, it was 2 days after Doug Ford was down with Minister Cho, and that we announced over $1 billion in projects for the Niagara Parks. 2 days later, they asked me to resign, and they appointed me as regional chair. And Sam Oosterhoff met me immediately thereafter and said, could you make Grimsby one of your first stops coming up? Hence, I had a meeting with the CAO and yourself, Mayor Jordan, and Michelle, and others about the issues up here. So I kept my word on that. I have been to Grimsby more than anywhere else. I haven't been to Fort Erie yet. There's a few places I haven't been. I've been traveling everywhere. I've been at Grimsby, I think, 5 times up here now, and Lincoln probably 3 or 4. So not that that means anything to you, but I certainly have seen more of Grimsby than other places, and I care that way. But I really am happy with Michelle Seaborn being here, being the chair of planning. I've talked to her a few times today about different things, and I'm going to tell you as councillors, we had a meeting on GO Train last week, and I know the issues with GO Train up here. It is the same way all the way to Niagara Falls. Even when I was chair of the Niagara Parks, we said, look at the traffic, look at all our tourists that are hung up in traffic coming, and nobody wants to come down here on a Saturday in the summertime now. But compliments to you, Mayor, on having your ear to the Premier and the Minister and that. I didn't know the connections that you have. I found them out at the meetings we had and that, so I know we're all aware of the issues. And we all are all asking the same thing about Niagara Falls. We want earlier trains. It gets there at 11:30 in the morning. You want to come down here for a Saturday, you're not coming at 11:30 in the morning and then hopping on the next train coming back, let alone the problem with the Burlington Skyway. So I'm aware of those issues there. There was a media release that just came out in the last 3/4 of an hour on budget with the Grimsby. I don't know if you've gotten it yet, but I was tasked with finding more efficiencies because I know our taxes are too high as the big bad region, and I don't like it either. So they're announcing that I found over $3 million in savings. I think it'll be more than that, but it comes up on Thursday for conversation there. And then with the will of council, whether they vote on it or not, I hope they do, and find some of the efficiencies that myself and my team and other councillors have found in the last 3 weeks. Other than that, I'm here just to take any questions you have, and I'm always available. I told Wainfleet and Port Colborne, I've been on the road a lot. Don't just ask me for something. Show me a path of how to get there. And tell me why it's good for the area and why we should be doing it. Because if it's just an ask for anybody, I can't do it. Because I'm looking out for the taxpayers as everybody else is. But if you can show us how it benefits the whole area, your area, any area, then let's make it happen on stuff like this. I'm pretty common sense on things like this. So with that, Mayor, I'd like to open it up if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I'll just get a mover and seconder to get it on the floor for questions. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Bradzi. Questions, let's start with Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, welcome to Grimsby again, Regional Chair. So you mentioned the tax issue, and I think that's one that we as councillors face the most is the tax question. The region accounts for the majority of our local taxes, as you know. I think it's, I want to say between 2/3 and 3/4 in Grimsby of the local taxes. The region sets the water and wastewater rates, that the wholesale rates that then get passed on to the taxpayers by the municipality as well. And again, those are the majority of the costs that the taxpayers in Grimsby face. So I guess my questions are, and you've already said you're looking for savings, which I love to hear, but there's also the issue of, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just bringing it up as a discussion.
Believe me, if I don't know an answer, I'll tell you I don't know.
There's the issue of accountability and communication, I think. I think that even as a 20, like I'm in my 20th year as a counselor, and I think that there's still a lot of people who don't understand what the region does and what the town does. And I think that as both the region and as a town, we have to do a better job of communicating those things. So I guess my question is, what do you think we can do to promote that? And what are the next steps, I think, from your perspective, to make sure that we get that understanding out there to the public?
I think you're totally correct that people should know what we do. I don't know how much more you have to go than that. To say that Michelle Seaborn's a regional councillor or you are a city councillor, who cares? It's one taxpayer on this. That's the problem I've got, is when people say to me, when at the region they say 50% is paid by the province with regards to public health on something. It's still us. On everything we do, it's still us on this stuff. So that doesn't cut it for me when I ran the business and things like this, because it doesn't matter. And no matter what the duties are, we have too many politicians in the Niagara region. I was quoted as saying that, and I mean it. I said it to Doug Ford 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, and that's one of the premises I ran in 2014. What do we have, 126 politicians in the region? Since that time, Toronto was cut right back. That's not the whole issue, though, but to identify what we do, I think, is a big thing, and identify the benefits of what we have in the region. At the last council I was at, I'll say it was Port Colborne, I'm not sure, and one councillor asked me, what's the biggest issue? Every day I turn around, there's another big issue, but so far the biggest one is infrastructure to me, and keeping our eyes focused, keeping in our lane. As Mayor Jordan knows, what we've gone off on different routes on things that we shouldn't be involved in as a region. I firmly believe in that, and I'm not going to give examples because I'll offend a lot of people with what I say, but infrastructure is a big case here, and I don't want to just keep throwing money at it. Show us a plan to fix up these sewers and everything else on it. And everybody's got the same problem. Whenever I say that, yes, we know that. Anybody that's been here, you've been here 20 years, you know infrastructure is a problem. So let's get a game plan. One of the comments made to me from a MPP was, our rates are too low down here. And before the province will start fixing our infrastructure, we should raise our rates. Then I found out, I went further with this, with staff at the region. They said, no, it's because they're not comparing apples to apples. Some rates are part paid by the regions up there, some are paid by the municipalities. You know, we got to get a level playing field on what the comment is on our rates, because it's not just raising the rates to the people. So I've gone around the whole route there. So I'm sorry if I answered your question. I hope so.
You're kind of getting to some of the key issues. I think that when I look at the regional tax calculator that is on the regional website, and I put in Grimsby information, what it shows you is that a large portion of the regional bill, for example, is policing costs, right? We saw a huge raise in the policing costs again this year. So, you know, I know that you're limited as the chair, but you are here, and I'm going to ask the same question that I would have asked Michelle if she was standing there. What are we doing to control those costs? What is the long-term plan to keep those costs in check? Because it seems like they're raising exponentially. You know, every year it seems like double digits, and it seemed like that for a long time. So, I mean, I think if you graph the policing costs or any regional costs, and it's the same for construction, it's the same for anything else that municipalities do. What are we doing to keep that in check? And what, you know, do you have, and you're early on, so I don't want to put you on the spot. Again, but I know that you have the same concerns that we have. I know that the taxpayer is a concern for you. That's something that I know that has been something that you've looked out for years as a regional councillor. So when you come in as now the chair of the region, what are you looking at as a possible solution to that problem? And if I don't want to steal your thunder, if it's something you're looking at in the long term, then that's fine. But if you've got some ideas, I'd love to hear them.
There's no thunder, but I am looking at it in the long term with the police. I have a bit of an argument with the as Mayor Jordan knows, with the province that I'll be talking to them about. They dumped voting on us when the RCMP and OPP used to do it, and they make us do the waterways, all our waterways now, and they didn't give us any compensation. The chief and I agree on that. Different things with policing, but policing is very expensive. I'll be bringing out some more comments about that on Thursday at our meeting at the region, but these are issues that I can't solve right now because policing costs are through the roof. And one concern I did have, I was chairman of the police board from 2014 to 2018. The Police Act at that time said, as a police board member, and not these words, but as a police board member, you don't report to the police, you don't report to the regional council, you report to the people. It's the people. Now, they've taken that out with the new Police Act, and now it's just adequate and effective policing. Okay, so you are just adequate and effective policing. And you know how crime has gotten more technological and things like this. The costs are phenomenal on this. So the chief that's there now, I hired him when I was chair of the police. I got a lot of use for the man. He's a good man. One of the reasons we hired him was because he believed in community. He realized we don't just arrest people. We put people in high schools to train them. Because if you don't teach our parents how to raise kids and that, we're dead in the water. At least that's what I firmly believe on that. So I've got a good man there, but the costs are very high. So I got a big thing in front of me that I'm appointed for, 10 months? So let's see. I don't promise miracles, but I'll try. So.
Got Councillor Bradzi next.
Thank you,
I
Mayor.
got to tell you, this is the most questions I've had. I like this.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, through you. I got to say, I really like to hear what you're putting down right now. I completely agree with the efficiencies and that there's too many politicians in the region. So my question is has there been any more furthering from the province in condensing the amount of lower tiers municipalities in Niagara and reducing the number of politicians?
No, you've read in the media what I have read on this, so it's in the hands of the province. Again, I say that there's too many politicians. I hope the province does something about it, but we'll see. They take the lead on this, so sorry, I can't help you on that one.
That's okay. And also when it comes to infrastructure, and specifically with infrastructure comes transit. So I just wanted to get your opinions on Niagara Region Transit.
I'm not trying to evade you. I just have no opinions on it. I have a concern when I see empty buses like everybody else does. I'd like to see that On Demand is making more money, but we have a board. Matt Sisko, I believe, is the chair of Niagara Transit, I believe, and he's a good guy. So I think transit never makes money anywhere in the world. All we can do is cut down our losses on this. That's the way I look at it. And if somebody from Caister Centre or Ridgeway and that wants to take a bus, might be inconvenient. But when you move out to the country, you know you better have a vehicle. If not, don't live out there. So my own opinion, not shared by council possibly, is if you're living out there, you might be inconvenienced on our on-demand transit or things like this. But the major cities, the universities and things like this, we owe a transit there, and that's how we got GO Train, is by connecting all our transit around. Did I answer your question at all?
That'll do.
I talk a lot.
Then just back to the infrastructure, and just what are your thoughts of the Mid-Penn corridor and Niagara to GTA corridor, if that has...
I'll be quick to say I have no thoughts on that right now. That hasn't even entered my conversation, so maybe down the way there will be. I see that the Queenie is plugged, and we're solving that by twinning the Garden City Skyway and things like this. So I've got a lot of questions, but GO Train should alleviate some of that, but I really haven't thought about the Mid-Penn corridor. So,
No, thank you. Thank you for coming to Grimsby.
thank you.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. I have a few questions and comments. Everybody knows bulk of our taxes go to the region, and I've often felt that Grimsby never got its fair share. The bigger cities like Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, where you've got the population, and they've got more problems, and they're getting more resources for them. So it feels sometimes like Grimsby is subsidizing these areas, when in fact, given our proximity to the QEW, it makes us sort of ripe for crime because it's such an easy getaway. So the question of fair share, and I'll just go through everything and then.
Sure.
Okay, so the question of fair share is one that really concerns me because I don't think we get our fair share out of the amount of money that we pay because of our taxes are going there. I know my colleague brought up amalgamation, and that we've got too many, you've mentioned we've got too many counselors, and I sometimes feel like, and I honestly, I feel like we do have too many counselors at the region. And one of the reasons Grimsby doesn't get its fair share is because more votes are going to the bulk of because the bulk of the counselors are from those big cities, and we have too little voices. That's it. And I think other small communities probably feel the same way. So it's not just about sort of amalgamation as a cost saving, because I'm not always sure that that saves costs, although I do agree with you that we need fewer counselors. But that said, I think there's a lot of duplication at the region, and that services are better delivered closer to the ground. So what kind of services at the region can we start cutting out to avoid the duplication of services that are being provided at the local level? And then the last thing, you talk about infrastructure. So I invite you to drive down Highway 8 going towards Winona, please. And that is all the explanation you're going to need to know what needs to be done there. One little drive, and I hope that your shocks are strong, okay? So if you want to address those, thank you.
Okay, when you mention that you're not getting your fair share, I'll disagree with you on that, but you might have the facts and figures. The one place that I really feel sorry for that not getting their fair share is Waynfleet. They're paying for transit. They probably have never seen a bus out there. They're paying for a lot of things they haven't seen, but then again, it's based on population. I don't see at the region that St. Catharines, you might think I'm fooling you around with you, but I don't see that St. Catharines and Niagara Falls and the other places get more. They certainly have more population, so they have more tax base, but I don't see that Grimsby, of all places, isn't getting, I won't use the word fair share, but getting a share on it. Whether it's right up to the snuff of the other ones or not, you'll have to show me examples on it. You're going to say something? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we don't have a bus either. I'll just say that. So
Okay,
I
I'm
know
not
you
on
mentioned
Niagara
Waynfleet
Transit,
doesn't have a
but
bus. We don't have a bus either.
Yep, yep.
Go on.
But, and as far as Highway 8, certainly I travel all the roads. I'm always traveling, and I think everybody, especially this time of year, is having potholes. On the Queen E coming up here is bad enough. I'm trying to remember the other things you touched on there, but the one I really wanted to highlight is the share. I understand, and if you think that you're not getting your share on something, then as a council, send something to us saying that we think we're unfairly being taxed for this, and let us come back to you.
Well, if you look at the what we're doing around policing, the bulk of policing, I'm sure, is going to where you have a lot of problems.
Yep.
Okay, which means there's kind of little left for Grimsby. What do we have, like 8 officers that rotate? There's only so much they can do. And if you look at the geographic area of what they have to service between Grimsby and Lincoln and West Lincoln, it's an impossible task. And once again, if you commit a crime in downtown St. Catharines, it's gonna be hard for you to make your getaway to Toronto. But you commit a crime here, and you can just zip off in no time flat. And we've seen that with robberies 3 times
Yeah, I know.
of a jewelry store downtown.
I remember that.
So I'll just say right off, I don't think we're getting our fair share of policing, and I'd like you to look into that.
So that's where I would suggest you go to the police board or as your council here, send a note to the police board, because they're in charge of the policing and what goes around. And there's no harm in them saying, we've had a complaint, we don't have enough officers in Grimsby or Smithville or wherever it is. It's not up to us as a regional council to go to them. We just fund the money. I don't like the system, but that's what it is. We just give them money. The police board runs that, and the chief decides where the officers are.
I've said that to the chief every time he's ever come here. So in the last 8 years or 6 years that I've been here. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, no, I don't mind this at all. And email me or whatever, go through your mayor or Michelle. I don't mind your questions at all. So,
Councillor Howe, then Councillor Sharwell.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to the regional chair. And Michelle will probably know what I'm going to bring up. And Councillor Bradsey suggested the mid-pen. We've got one that on the books that predates that, the escarpment crossing.
at Bartlett Road?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Which we've got, it's going to benefit Beamsville, take that really awful corner intersection in there, going to benefit West Lincoln, and as it grows, it's certainly going to benefit us. I will, full disclosure to you, I live on Mountain Street. Mountain Street was there when the horse and buggies were going up and down, and the shape of it hasn't changed at all. That's sitting in either with the transportation department down at the region or with planning, and the environmental assessment is at a certain stage, and it's just kind of languishing now and has been for 6 months, 8 months, something like that. But it's a biggie for this area and for the province.
Yeah, at the first meeting I had, your mayor brought it up to me. And I don't like Bartlett, take a right, take a left to get up the hill. I thought that's ancient, and we talked about that. I don't have an answer for that, but it's certainly been discussed, and it's going to be discussed. But I'd be lying to you if I said this is going to come up in the next year or two. Yeah, you know, I don't want to do that, but it's certainly an issue.
Councillor Sharwell.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. And also congratulations on your
Thank you.
appointment. I don't want to kind of reiterate the same things that the councillors have already said, but we do not get our fair share. So you're going to hear that a lot from me as well. And I appreciate that you're here and you're having this conversation with us. I would agree that NRT is one that we pay a lot of money for, and we have little minivans that will just drive around. Nobody's in them. So that is something that I've raised a number of times. I'd like to have some serious conversations about possibly restructuring that and seeing whether it's efficient or not. What we can do, maybe shuttles are a better idea, something that for the cost that we are paying, that we're providing for the region, we should have much better services than we're getting. If we can't cut those taxes, then I'd at least prefer that we are getting better services than we are getting, because I would agree we're not getting our fair share. So that's something that you're going to hear from me.
Yep.
Some of the points, I personally, I support the idea of a mayor's only council at the region and eliminating the regional councilors' positions. I think it's not a matter of administration costs, because we know that regional councilors are also not paid, big bucks. But I think the efficiency and just the meetings alone, and maybe we would be better represented, because it would be one Grimsby mayor against one St. Catharines mayor, rather than, being completely outnumbered, if you understand what I'm saying. And also another thing that, is maybe the elephant in the room is the redundancies in the positions at the region. So those departments that, I'm not going to point out which departments are maybe not working as much as they have, maybe that we need to look at restructuring, and maybe they will make their way into the municipalities that need them. So those are just my points. If you have anything to add.
So
happy to have
regional
these.
transit, if you see the on-demand vehicles going around empty, and they haven't just dropped somebody off and they're going back, I got an issue with that. But do you have somebody on transit on your council, on the board?
Yeah, Councillor Frake.
That's the man to go to on it. I mean, come to us, sure, but on their transit thing, if you see on-demand driving around empty, we got a problem. They aren't just driving around. They're supposed to be going to a spot to pick up somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong. On that.
Yeah, we've had this discussion very often. I'm not sure the frequency of the NRT meetings. I don't know if Councillor Freak can speak to that. I haven't heard any updates, and I've asked for information. But it's something that I would like to have us look at seriously.
And you should champion that.
Yes.
I get that, but we have our agencies to go to that are responsible for that. So your counselor or did I say Matt Cisco is the chair of that? I would certainly get that issue up there, especially if you've seen the vehicles just wandering around aimlessly. I get a real concern with that one. I didn't know you didn't have transit buses coming out here, but then again, I'm not on transit on that envelope.
And to your point, we're not expecting like these massive buses to just, hang out in Grimsby, but there's got to be some kind of efficiency that we can find. So we're not absorbing this massive cost and we're having these NRT vehicles parked in the parking lot.
Yep. And please don't wait for me.
Yes.
Michelle or your mayor are on council. I agree, 32 people on council. That's pretty big. Try and get things done on that. That's a tough one. And that I would never make up a council that big on it. So whether it should just be mayors and that's up to the government if they do a reformulation of councils and things like this. But I know I have opinions, but now that I have the hat that says regional chair, I got to watch some of my opinions out there because that'll be the headlines tomorrow.
Well, you have my support for that.
I would be going to Michelle right away with these complaints and that, or to Mayor Jordan, although I know as being mayor, he has a lot of things on his plate. You had a few other points there, and I'm sorry, I just lose it with I should have brought a pen up here and started writing these down. I didn't expect this, but this is good.
Yeah, it's just a matter of really focusing on providing better services. And, we speak about this in our council meetings quite often. And if we can just really, rather than just talk about how we're going to, bring our taxes down and be a little bit more responsible to the taxpayer, if we can actually, start thinking about some solutions, that's kind of where I'm going with that.
And I agree wholeheartedly on it. Let's see if the government does something on a reformulation or whatever. I mean, we've all read the media on these things, but I'll leave it at that.
Councillor DeVoley, then Councillor Frick.
I didn't mean to be up here for so long, not to take up your meeting, but I'm kind of enjoying this.
Maybe we should get you a chair.
Yeah.
He is the chair.
He is the chair. I made a chair to sit on. I want to just share with you two thoughts. It is easy to say, present some things to us and on issues like our fair share and so on. But the truth of it is the field of cost accounting was developed by professional accountants decades and decades ago, and that's exactly what it does. It looks at costs and it says, which costs really belong here and there, which ones are being shared, and that analysis can be done. But the analysis can never be done at the lower tier for what goes on at the upper tier's government. You have access to the accounting records and all those numbers. We don't, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do leave that with you, that, when you hear from every municipality that, or at least from some of the more rural ones or semi-urban ones like us, that we're concerned about our fair share, it is possible to actually do that analysis, but it's not possible to do it at our level of government because we don't have access to all that information. My second comment, and I'll take a different stance on this one, I have often said that one of the advantages of being a smaller municipality is that we don't have homeless issues here in Grimsby per se, a little bit, but not to the extent certainly that our larger sister municipalities are down the road. We have welfare cases, absolutely, but not to the extent that bigger municipalities do. I mean, if you were someone that was suffering in any of those categories, of course, if I was a homeless person, I'd probably go live, in St. Catharines or in Welland or someplace, because that's where the services are and that's where others are. And so in an odd way, municipalities like Grimsby actually benefit by virtue of the fact that those dear folks who need that care actually reside more in those urban cities than they do in Grimsby. And I, for one, am happy to help support those communities who have to deal with it. And so although we may not have any people directly in those situations and are grappling with those issues ourselves, I am happy to use our tax dollars and share them with our sister communities who then are working with those. In an odd way, it actually is keeping the problem there, and then it's not coming out to us. So that's an unusual benefit, but I'm just saying that, you know, we're all in this together, and that I don't have a problem with having some of our tax dollars here go towards helping those larger cities deal with those really big issues that are there. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So addressing your last point first, yeah, after seeing Niagara Falls and Welland and St. Catharines, neighborhoods torn apart by putting a homeless shelter in these places and that, you don't want that. I mean, Coronation area of Niagara Falls, where I was elected out of, and in Welland, we had a group saying you're going to wreck our nice neighborhood by putting this in here. It's a NIMBY type effect, not in my backyard, but I wish somebody in the world or somebody in North America had a solution for this, because we keep dumping money in and we don't seem to be getting anywhere with it. So I'm just venting to you on that, and I agree, Grimsby's a beautiful place. Be thankful you don't have that problem at St. Paul and Geneva and in St. Catharines and things like this. As far as your accounting thing, everybody here knows me. You'll see me act on Thursday. Just wait for me on this stuff, looking at things. My reputation is looking at things. These are friends, business people, and other counselors that have helped me with what I uncover on Thursday. And I've just started. I've got 10 months, and we'll see what happens. But believe me, I'm going to be looking at everything there if I can, but I'm one person. I need a team on this. And I've got some of my team in there, my staff and that, looking at different things, not knocking the region, not knocking the cities. But we have to justify for the taxpayer. The taxpayer is my God, if you want to call it that way. Forget about everything else here. But we have to provide services. What did I say in Wainfleet? I want to have ROI with a social conscience. So in other words, I want to be a business and show a return on our investments, but I understand you have to help the needy. So I have to balance that. But as far as looking at different things, we've uncovered some things that you'll hear about on Thursday, I'm sure. I'm not going to say it now, but that were fairly easy for us to uncover on stuff. And I've been there a month and a week or two. So let's see. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. We should be looking into our stuff, and challenge me on that. And if you have any advice to give me, please do. And I'll be turning to all my business partners in the Niagara region and that to let me know. Don't just dump on us. Nobody likes paying taxes and that. Be constructive to us. And like I said to you, if you have something, show me the path of how to get there. If you want something, show me the path. Don't just say, I hate transit, and you haven't, don't get me wrong. But if you have buses driving around empty, we got to solve that. And we have an agency to do that. And if they're not doing it, then it falls on me, falls on our council. I think I've said enough there.
Thank you. Councillor Frakes up next.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Chair.
It's Bob.
Welcome
Bob's
back.
good enough.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've got 10 months to move a couple of mountains.
I won't be able to do that, but I'll try.
But anyway, lots of luck, and I'm sure we'll all be here to support you if you need it. I just want to look on the more positive side of things. Grimsby is a relatively small town with a lot going on, a lot of good things going on, and we haven't mentioned that. You know, we have over 3,000 homes that are sitting in abeyance right now, ready to be built. I mean, the developers have bought the land and they're ready to go. The market may not be right, but we have those commitments already. We have a lot of industrial commercial projects happening in Grimsby, which is going to create a lot of jobs. Nobody's mentioned that. So that's another good thing. So we do have some, economically speaking, I think Grimsby is in a very good position overall. Yes, we have transit issues. And I don't think that NRT on command can do any better than what they're doing. They have their issues. I do believe that they are doing as much as they can possibly do Yes, you may see some going around empty once in a while, but maybe that's their slow period because there's peaks and peaks and peaks, right? So, it's very easy to pick on these things and see how bad they are because we have a tendency to be more negative than positive. I kind of like to think the other way around. I think that it's doing as well as it can do from a transit position. We do have a long way to go in transit, and I'm coming around to that. And so there is a plan in place to bring, a conventional transit to Grimsby over the next couple of years. I think that will happen, and I think the commission that we have will disband this year, but I think they've got a good plan in place, and I think it'll happen, and I think it'll be very, very valuable. That brings me to the GO train, which I know you've been a good proponent of happening. So, we had the Minister of Transport and Sam and so on and so forth about a year ago come here and make an announcement right here in this chamber. And that was over a year ago, and it's kind of gone silent and nothing's really happened. I would suggest to you, and I ask you, to get the Queen's Park to come back here and reinforce that, because it's kind of gone silent and everybody's saying, well, they just made a political statement and it's not, it's just politics. I don't totally believe that, but I believe the GO train will come. And I'd like to see it sooner than later because it's an economic driver. Transit is an economic driver for this town. And if we're going to create up to 2,000 jobs in the next 5 years, that talent's got to come from somewhere. Some of it will come from Grimsby, which would be great, so you don't have to go far away to go to work. And then there's, how do we get other talent to come to Grimsby? Well, we need a transit system because all those jobs that are going to be created are not going to be all here. And then there's the people that will, of course, drive the housing market. If we get lots of employment here, that will drive the housing market. The houses will start getting built, and we will need more transit. So there's a lot of moving parts, and they need to be linked together, and everyone needs to look at it from a bigger picture. And I'll say it again, Grimsby is doing very well. We just need a lot of support to make it all happen, and that region can help us with that. You can help us with that. And I look forward to working with you on a lot of these things. And again, I thank you for coming out and thank you for picking Grimsby as first. Lots of luck.
So I have a simple answer to that, and the answer is yes.
Good.
Everything you said is correct. But I'm privy to a lot of conversations that your mayor has had about GO train, and I have some sheets that were given to me to address things. I just briefed them, and I saw the announcements made over the last couple of years, and here we are still on this. So your mayor's been fighting for this. I know with the conversation I had with you Thursday or Friday with the minister on stuff. So I'll let you, Mayor Jordan, fill your counsel in on some things because I don't know what's confidential in the conversations or not. But I've come up here and I've met with developers who, in the last Friday, I was up here meeting a man about properties around the GO train and things like this. So I know the issues. I don't have the solutions. I'm too new on it to give you answers on this. So
we just need to bring them all together.
You got it.
Everything is happening in isolation. Like what's going on with the GO train, it seems it's happening out there. We only hear bits and pieces, and a lot of it are rumors. But we would like to have someone come officially and reinforce what they said a year ago, and give us some reinforcement on that. And because the developers, not just the housing developers, but the industrial commercial developers in town who are going to create all these jobs I'm talking about, I mean, they want to know this is coming too because they're putting their business on the line. They're putting their money in Grimsby, and they're taking a gamble that these things are going to happen. And when transit is a huge, huge issue to that. So I'm speaking to the convinced, I know. But anyways, thank you for coming out. Hopefully you're listening, and hopefully we can depend on your support.
So just ending out, I'm an email or phone call away for everybody on that. So if anybody, is there somebody else? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
I
have one
apologize.
more. Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I just want to say thank you, actually, because I've had a couple constituents with concerns that have gone through me and Michelle, and I know Michelle has gone to you, and you have very efficiently gotten on some things, in particular, like the safety concerns of not having crosswalks on Christie Street, especially with the line changes, because now it tends to be a little bit of a rolling stop because you have that much more to edge out.
Okay.
And I believe our MPP is on it. And I just want to thank you for your response. The water treatment center, the odor is the other thing. And I know you've come and you've looked at a few things and had some conversations with the mayor and stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you for that quick response to the concerns from the residents. Thank you, Michelle, for your efficiency as well. And when you act so quickly, Michelle is able to get back to both me and the constituents, so we're always in the know. So I appreciate that. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, just as a compliment about Michelle, I did a tour of all of the commissioners and all their agencies at the region. She was right behind me the next day on every one. She said to me today that every document you got, I got addressed to Bob Gale, I got given to me the next day. So she's on it on this stuff. So, my compliments to that. But again, whoever you want to contact to solve it, probably better because she'll understand it, be able to explain it better to me. But whatever you wish.
All right, well, thank you very much for your candidness, Bob, and I'm glad that you love answering questions, because you certainly got a full round here.
I told Megan, next time I come here, I know I'm going to get it. If you don't mind, I'm going to leave.
Yeah, well, thank you. You have a great evening.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Bradsey. Resolved that the delegation from the regional chair, Gale, be received. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have chair's reports. Councillor DeFlavio, please give your chair's report.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's not, just leave it. It's not on.
Through you, the Public Works Committee met on January 28th, and the meeting was mostly operational and informational in nature. I'll highlight a couple of key things. There was the first committee, the committee received the 2025 Roads Quality Management System Management Review, the RQMS. This is the provincially required program that governs how municipalities inspect, maintain, and document the conditions of their roads. So receiving this report confirms that the town continues to meet its regulatory obligations when it comes to best practices, following best practices, and how we manage and maintain our road network. There were no key issues identified that required council's direction when it came to the RQMS. We received an update on the Downtown Reimagined project. Our public works staff was kind enough to kind of give us a review of what was given at the downtown business meeting that was held back in the early winter time. This informational update focused on timing and coordination rather than changes to the project itself. Committee members asked questions about anticipated timelines and sequencing, particularly as it related to minimizing disruptions downtown. We heard from a lot of the business owners downtown that they'd like to see it, kind of a Band-Aid ripped off as quickly as possible. Everybody understands that there's going to be some pain that happens, but whatever we can do to reduce that and bring it to one season rather than two, I think would be beneficial to everybody. This item will return to council as the project advances and decisions are required by us. There was some discussions under other business about the former Milk and Things building, which is now under ownership of Niagara Region. The building is currently boarded up and highly visible in the downtown. Staff advised that demolition is anticipated in early 2026, so I hope that that's true. I've asked Councillor Seaborn, who's going to get back to me tomorrow, to let me know for sure about about the actual timeline. Councillor Howe mentioned the cornerstones are really nice on the building, and hopefully we can preserve those. Committee also received correspondence from the Niagara Region regarding upcoming public information center relating to the regional infrastructure planning and its important opportunity for public engagement. That had to do with water improvements going to Smithville. There were some other things under new business. Councillor DeVoli rightfully commended our staff for the road and street cleaning in Grimsby compared to other municipalities. They did an excellent job. We discussed sidewalk maintenance and snow removal, including the fact that some sidewalk equipment had experienced mechanical issues. I guess some of our sidewalk plows broke down all at the wrong time, but we found some alternatives and got around to getting all of that done in a very short matter of time. There was discussion about recent extremely cold weather and the weather emergency and water main breaks that may have occurred over the last year. I'm going to touch wood and say I think there was only one that we had over the last year so far. You might recall that the previous winter with the changes, the temperature changes, there were a lot of water main breaks. I just wanted to also highlight that there's an upcoming this Thursday Transportation Master Plan Open House. It's in conjunction with our planning department, I believe, and the OP Master Plan, the OP changes that are occurring. That's this Thursday here at Town Hall, February 12th at 6 p.m. and from 6 to 8. So I would encourage the public and members of council to come in. There will be panels set up. People have a chance to give feedback. It's a good opportunity to be a part of the process. So council, of course, is aware of it, but members of the public, I would encourage you, if you're, for the 3 or 4 people that are watching, to be here on Thursday to be a part of it and tell your friends. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeFlavio. Councillor Frake, can you please give your corporate services report?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I'll try to be brief because it was a very long agenda. Anyways, we met on February the 2nd. We had no disclosures of interest, we had no delegations. We, however, did have 8 discussion reports. 4 of them were policy related, and 4 of them were related to accomplishments by the individual departments. And I'll just do some highlights here because there's too much to go through. I would tie up the whole meeting. We had a policy recommendation for council leave of absence, which Tory brought forward. It recommended that a member of council may be granted a formal leave of absence by a resolution of council for a period of up to 6 months. There will be a leave of absence for election candidates in the event that a member of council becomes a candidate in a municipal by-election for a different office than the office and the member holds on the same council. The member shall notify the clerk of such candidacy. So there is a policy put forward on that, which we put forward to council tonight. There was another policy recommendation on the election sign bylaw. So this is an update recommended for that. And that part of it was that the town will now require an election sign permit to deposit, and any deposit to erect a sign. The deposit, excuse me for a second, is $250 for a mayor, regional councillor, and $200 for ward councillors. Election sign deposits will be refunded within 90 days after voting day, minus any deductions for any infractions. Sign size was recommended that the maximum size would be 5 by 5. I think it was 4 by 8 or something before. Candidates may only place a single election sign in the ward in which they are officially nominated or registered. In other words, you can't have somebody running in Ward 4, putting signs in Ward 1, et cetera, et cetera. So that's probably a logical thing, but it did happen over the last couple of terms. I know that for sure. Then we went into accomplishments. The clerks had a busy year. I'll just touch on some of the things. They were very much involved in the preparation and the amendments of the procedural bylaw for the strong mayor's powers. That took a while to put all that together. There was a memorandum of understanding between the town and the Grimsby Downtown Board, BIA Board, which was signed in 2025. The clerk staff prepared a report outlining alternative voting methods in the 2026 municipal election and viewed voter turnout from previous years. This is where they got their information from, to base the policy on. The town was very active in marrying a lot of people. So I'm just touching on some things here. So we started issuing provincial marriage licenses back in 2024. We started. That year, there was 490 licenses issued, and in 2025, there were 722. So people are still getting married, and they're coming to Grimsby. I assume that all of these aren't in Grimsby, but there were 722 licenses issued in 2025. very busy year. The clerk's department is very busily working on a records modernization project, so that's ongoing, and working on the customer service project, which was launched this year as well, last year. And the development of the customer service strategy and implementation plan is also a key accomplishment for their 2025. There was an item based around holiday closure. The clerk's office and staff are recommending that we close town hall administration on December 31st, which is New Year's Eve, because there's very, very, very little activity on that day. And if we approve that, then, you know, the time they take out will be adjusted towards their statutory time off and so on and so forth. So that was a recommendation. And then there's another departmental update from IT. IT has been active. In 2025, the IT department completed 1,749 calls for technical support. That includes council as well. That's a lot of calls. The town's asset management plan, which they worked on that, which included replacing aged technology assets with fixed life cycles. They also worked to replace all the computers that were originally deployed in 2020, which is approximately 20%. You can read the rest of it. They were also engaged in by using an external consultant to independently review the town's corporate network firewall, so they feel that it's quite secure. Desktop telephone system replacement is another item that the ITSE was working on. The town's current telephone system was originally implemented in 2017, so it's quite old. And the upgrade has eliminated most physical desktop phones, so it's a really new, very new technology. And they were also very much involved in rebuilding the network at the Peachking Center. You can read the rest of it. There's a lot to go through. I don't know if you want to listen to me tell you about it, but bylaw was very busy. They work very closely with the Human Society of Greater Niagara on dog licensing and dog control.
It's all on there.
It was a long meeting with a lot of detail, and I'm only touching on some of them.
Yeah.
So I just suggest you take the time out to pull out this document and read it, because there's a lot of accomplishments in there. And I have to say, I have to commend staff for all the great things that they did in the past year. Congratulations to all of them, and hopefully you will continue your great work. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor DeFlavio, you had a question?
Yeah, through your,
Go ahead.
sorry. Through you, Mayor. I might be to the clerk. It just, Councilor Frank mentioned the December 31st closure. I just wanted some clarification on that, because, I didn't understand the report. So is the intent that Town Hall be closed? And because traditionally, it's been a day that people take off, but it counts towards their vacation time. And so that is, if we close downtown hall, that would be an additional vacation day for every staff member. Which has it might not have a financial cost, but it has a financial cost. So I just want some clarification on it. Thanks.
Through the chair, no, it is, if we closed town hall, administration staff would be required to use an existing floater day. So there's no financial cost from staffing perspective. That's why we wanted to get this report approved early, so that staff would have to reserve either a floater day or a vacation day for that day. Currently, some staff are using it, but given the fact that we are open, we are required to staff up accordingly. So it's difficult to find staff that can come in on that day.
And that's a valid concern. I guess my next question would be, can we legally require people to take a floater day on a day that we close? Like, if we're closing town hall, how can we ask people to take a vacation day then?
Through the chair, it's only the town hall administration, so our community services, our operations staff would still be working. I'm sure we would be able to handle one-off requests as needed, but we would obviously deal with those confidentially. The intent is still to have our arena open, our operations staff open, and continue those operations. We're specifically talking about town hall being closed that day. That's it.
All right, up next is Planning and Development report.
Jacob has his hand up, but we're not really supposed to be asking questions.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, through you. I'm not quite sure who this is poised to, but I just wanted to ask for the rationale behind the size of the sign change. I understand 4x8. The previous rule was it's a nominal sheet of plywood, so that made a lot of sense in my mind. So just curious to why the change to 4 feet by 5 feet.
Through the chair, so it's up to 5 by 5, so that's the maximum. It was the local area municipalities took a report and they're all similar bylaws. So that's where that number came from, is we're trying to find some uniformity across the region.
All right, I'm going to continue with Planning and Development report. We had 3 items on the agenda. First was a draft plan of condominium for 25 Main Street each, which is Century condos. And that means that the construction's far enough on the way that they've actually dividing into units. So that is exciting that it is moving forward, even though it's been a tough winter for construction. And the next on the agenda was the Municipal Addressing Information Report. Grimsby doesn't actually have a bylaw for addressing standards, so it's something that staff brought forward that they noticed the gap in this. And Grimsby's now we're going to put the address bylaw together to address the gaps. And the third item was draft plan of condominium for 15 Lake Street. That's down at Lake Court Lake Court Marina. So those units are well underway as well. And our next meeting is March 4th, 2026. Now we move to adoption of the previous minutes. Councillor DeVolle, you have a question?
I do, Mayor Jordan, thank you. And my question has to do with a report that actually is listed in the agenda. It's the revised leave of absence policy. Just a few questions and then a concern. The leave of absence policy, and specifically with respect to when people are running for elected office. The Downtown Business Improvement Association also drafted a similar policy. I guess my question on this one is to the clerk to make sure that they actually are aligned, that what we're passing does align and mirror what the Downtown Business Improvement Association did. So just to ask for assurance on that. I see her nodding.
Through the chair, yes, it's aligned. So I can't recall the specific section off the top of my head, but the exception to that would be on the BIA, the members of council that sit on that board would not be expected to take a leave of absence for that purpose. It's an exception in the BIA, if I'm recalling correctly, but we did look at it before we put this on there.
Thank you. And then the corollary to that, the library always occupies a unique position in our organizational structure in that it has its own board and staff, and then sort of reports to council in a different manner. So just to ask, does the library get covered by this policy as well, or do they need to pass something separately for their own board?
Thanks, through the chair. So we looked at the library existing procedure bylaw and don't see anything relating to the election. So if this gets approved at council, we'll touch base with them and they can bring something forward to their board if they want, or they can fall under our policy and not have similar policies that say the same thing. So.
Thank you. And my last question has to do with the fact that in this revised policy, we now have, a policy that says, lay members cannot miss so many meetings in a row, et cetera, and then they come off our committees. And yet our policy for leave of absence and missing meetings and so on only specifically deals with council meetings and not committee meetings. So I find, we have a bit of an anomaly, I guess, here in that we're passing a policy that deals with our lay members who sit on committees, but we don't have the same standards or policy for those of us who are councillors who theoretically are the leaders and should set the example for it. So perhaps you could be so kind as to talk to how we fix that anomaly.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the reason of that apparent discrepancy is because the Municipal Act specifically says Section 259, it says for the meetings of council for up to 3 successive months. It doesn't cover committee meetings. We have to rely on our internal bylaws and procedures to cover committee meetings. We do that for committee members through our procedural bylaw, and I think I've said a couple times around this table that at our next term of council, we will propose a committees of council policy that includes some expectations or committee minimums for council members attending committees, but we would bring that forward at the next term of council.
If I could just ask then, what would be the reason why we can't deal with it at this term of council?
Through the chair, so we had a couple governance checkpoints. At that time, they hadn't been brought up. We had suggested postponing it till the next term. We don't know what the committee structure will be next term. So depending on who's mayor, there's a lot of new expectations through strong mayor powers that you can determine how that committee structure is set up. And so it seems not productive to make policies right now when they wouldn't be implemented till next term, and this term of council cannot hold the next term of council accountable through bylaws or policies. So just to be productive, it seems better to determine the governance structure than bring forward a committee of council policy next term.
Sorry, and yet this policy is dealing with lay members. And that's because they are on our committees till the end of this term. So that's why we're dealing with the issue now and not saying, oh, don't deal with this at all because the next term of council will decide the organizational structure it wants to have of standing committees or not. Is that the reason then?
Through the chair, we thought it was pressing to bring forward the inclusion of committee members because of the upcoming election. So we wanted to provide a very clear process and procedure for how that would work.
Thank you for your answers on this. Thanks.
All right, we need a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes. Moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Council, January 12, 2026. Public Works Committee, January 28, 2026. Corporate Services Committee, February 2nd, 2026, as amended. And Planning and Development Committee, February 4th, 2026. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Grimsby Public Library Board, December 10th, 2025. Property Standards Committee and Committee of Adjustment, December 16th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, are there any announcements on the floor? Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I just wanted to make everybody aware that this Saturday is CD Saturday at the Grimsby Public Library. There are speakers and there are usually booths, and it only happens every couple of years. And the last one I went to was packed and it was fantastic. So highly suggest going. Information is on the Grimsby Library Facebook page and Grimsby Garden Club Instagram. It is from 11 till 3. The other thing I wanted to do is just say a great big thank you to a lot of our local businesses. Special Olympics hosted a volunteer appreciation for all of their volunteers in the community and surrounding that volunteer to actually help the organization create and have its programs for people in our community. And a lot of our businesses donated things in appreciation for the volunteers, which I think is fantastic, and it says a lot about our community. So I just wanted to personally thank the local businesses that did that, including Jordan's Flower Shop. So thank you very much. That is very much appreciated from all the volunteers.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I just wanted to bring it to people's attention that the spring 2026 Author Series dates have been released. They were released yesterday. It's March 27th, April 17th, and May 22nd. Tickets go on sale February 23rd. It's always very popular, quite often sold out, so I would encourage people to buy their tickets early. Some great authors on the list again, as usual, and I'm looking forward to being there for the Author Series. Thank you.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, Harmony Jewelers has a fundraiser on right now called Shine On, and it's a online auction. You can either donate items that you have to be auctioned off, or and you'll be given a tax receipt for those things, or you can bid on an item. And I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 days left to go. So if you go to Harmony Jewelers and go online, you'll see their Shine On, the link to the auction. And all proceeds raised will either go to West Lincoln Hospital Foundation or McNally House. So they'll be divided equally between those two. So I think it's a great initiative by one of our local businesses, and I can tell you I've got an eye on something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want everybody to bid it up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have, need a mover and seconder to get the Grimsby Curling Club resolution report on the floor for discussion. Councillor DeVoley, Councillor Baradzi. Tony, please go ahead.
Good evening. This is a follow-up to the council motion regarding the feasibility of the town acting as an intermediary between the Grimsby Curling Club and the Niagara Community Foundation and the Curling Club's efforts to raise funds for its capital improvement program. The Curling Club is a not-for-profit organization, but it is not a registered charity. As a result, they cannot issue tax-deductible receipts for donations made. The Community Foundation is also restricted in who it can distribute funds to, and not-for-profits such as the Curling Club are ineligible. Staff are not aware of the town acting as a flow-through for a not-profit in this manner before, and so without a legal opinion, it's unknown what risks, if any, the town may be subjecting itself to by acting in this intermediary role. So, for example, we want to ensure we're not contravening the Municipal Act by favoring one organization over another and ensure we are not putting our own CRA status in jeopardy. Estimates to have this arrangement reviewed for legal compliance would be approximately $9,000 to $12,000, and should council direct staff to enter into an agreement with both parties, that would require further legal costs to execute an agreement, and that would be estimated at between $4,000 and $8,000. So in total, legal costs estimated to be in the $13,000 to $20,000 range. A more appropriate option for the Curling Club would be to explore and utilize the services of the National Sport Trust Fund, or the NSTF. The NSTF allows for not-for-profit sport organizations to raise funds for specific projects and allows for charitable tax receipts to be provided for donations. And that ability to provide those tax-deductible receipts provides significant benefits for donors and increases the appeal of those fundraising campaigns. The National Sport Trust Fund is a national program that's administered through provincial sport bodies and has helped clubs all across the province, including many curling clubs, raise funds for various projects. Donors would be directed to make their donation via the NSTF, and they would in turn remit donations to the Curling Club on a quarterly basis. And the Ontario Curling Council and its member organizations do endorse the use of the NSTF as a revenue-generating program for member clubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Questions? Councillor Davoli.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Not a question so much as a thank you for that research. I think your description of the National Foundation that would actually be coordinating all of this reminds me very much of what we have in Niagara with the Niagara Community Foundation, where people can give, and there are, certain funds that are maintained by that organization and so on. And so I think that's a really reasonable alternative for them to explore. And the second thing that we wanted to remind everybody of is that, of course, we also have our community sponsorship grant, and you don't have to be a registered charity in order to apply. You can be simply a not-for-profit organization. And of course, the funds must be used for capital purposes, and perhaps that's where the curling club is a little bit ahead of their time, but we always want to remind people that we're open to having groups apply, and typically this happens in late summer and early fall.
Any further questions from council? Seeing none, I have a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Davoli, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that report FIN 26-01 Grimsby Curling Club resolution dated February 9, 2026 be received. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Tony. Up next, Councillor Davoli has moved and Councillor Vardy has seconded the motion regarding monitoring and compliance of the unanimous shareholders agreement. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Frank.
I don't think we should pass this resolution at this time because right now you're asking for the Q4 results of GPI. They are now going through not only Q4, but they're going through year end. And I don't think it's physically possible for them to have the information you want on the date that you've asked. And to give you an idea of what they're going through right now, on March the 2nd, KPMG financial audit will take place. GPI will support KPMG with providing necessary documents, et cetera, et cetera. March 23rd to April the 10th, the tax return circulation based on the 2025 draft audited financial statements will be calculated. Then April 13th, GPI will review the calculations from the KPMG for the net movement in regulatory balances and blah, blah, blah. And then that moves into April 23rd, where the GPI board meeting has to approve them. And that moves up to MPI, which they have to approve it. And April 30th, GPI then will receive the audited financial statements. And then they need to report to the Ontario Energy Board, and they need to approve it. They could make changes to that. We don't know. And so there's a whole lot of things in there. May the 14th, GPI will have their AGM with MPI, and on June the 2nd, MPI will have their AGM, and then you have Q4 100% approved audit reports as well as year end. So I'm suggesting we not do this right now and leave it until the AGM, when all the information will be available for Q4 as well as the whole year. So I'm just suggesting we just not pass this particular motion right now, because I think it's kind of premature, and I don't think it sends a very good message, to be very honest with you.
Councillor Davoli.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I think it's important for everyone here to understand and not be confused by information that has come to us previously. So companies that are incorporated under the Ontario Business Corporations Act are held to the rules of that act, which call for an AGM, absolutely. But the role of a shareholders agreement is completely different, and we do have one with Fortis as our minority shareholder, and of course the other two companies, GPI and NPI, are listed as parties to the agreement because they are the ones that are being asked to provide reporting and so on to the shareholders. What does the shareholders agreement actually do, and why is there one? And by the way, I believe it was created a long time ago when Fortis came into the picture as a minority shareholder. And I believe, from what I recall, that particular agreement was actually drafted by the lawyers for GPI at that time. And so shareholders' agreements determine how the shareholders will get along and how they will do things, what they bring to the table, the reporting mechanisms, how often they'll pay dividends, how they'll do it, when reports will come up, and ultimately how they will separate, which inevitably comes as well. Now, why? So at this point in time, we have a shareholders agreement, and it does call for reporting requirements to this council and to Fortis as well at the same time. Why do I seem to sort of continually pursue this issue is because we strike a budget every year, and the budget is done on a cash basis. So we keep track of, the interest that we will be paid by the promissory note from our power company. We keep, and that goes into our budget. We estimate what the investment income is that we're going to receive from external parties, and that goes in. But what we have never been able to budget is what we're going to receive in dividends from the power companies. And that is important because that amount for the last 3 years has been about $180,000 a year. And $180,000 in 2025 was 1% of our levy. And so when we open up communication and truly abide by this shareholders agreement, we miss the opportunity to save our ratepayers in 3 years 3% of our levy. Now imagine a world where we actually were having more frequent conversations and meetings with our folks in the subsidiary companies. We could have saved our taxpayers 3% over this term of council so far. Does this world exist in other municipalities? Absolutely. I have talked to other municipalities where that actually is done. I've looked at their budgets. I've looked at their audited financial statements. There's actually a note in the financial statements that explains this for other municipalities. So we have an opportunity in front of us to actually begin to open up those conversations, to ask our subsidiaries to abide by, to come and meet with us. And although these things will ebb and flow in terms of their busy time, I can't imagine that the board of GPI is not interested in the fourth quarter results and would be waiting until the AGM neither. I think a vote for this motion tonight sends the message that council believes that when we are a party to a legal agreement, that everybody who's a party to it will abide by it. And we set that standard for ourselves. I believe that we as a council understand we have fiduciary duties to actually monitor the investments that our entity, that our town owns. I believe that we as a council want to actually understand better what's going on at our hydro companies or power companies, let me use the right term, and that we want to monitor and work with those entities. And at the end of the day, I think all of us want to find ways to actually reduce our taxes or at least not increase them as much. And by actually opening up the lines of communication between all of us, we have an opportunity to build it into future levies. Unfortunately, those opportunities have passed us by from previous ones. So yes, we are asking for the report in the motion, that a report come in March. We realize these are internal financial statements that would be coming to us, that they're not audited and so on. If the chairs of those boards would like to come with other information besides that, we are always open to hearing more from them as well. But I believe that this is important for all of our residents as well as for us as councillors to truly undertake our fiduciary duties and save our ratepayers some money.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. So I'm torn because I fully support accountability. I'm just not convinced that this motion adds any meaningful oversight to the process. The utilities that we're talking about are highly regulated. They're in a highly regulated environment. Their quarterly financial results are generally predictable. There's very little volatility or surprises in what happens in these things. They're regulated to not have volatility and regulated to not have surprises in their quarterly statements. Council's already appointed, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but council has appointed shareholder representatives to each of these boards specifically to receive and review this information within the proper governance framework. So requiring routine quarterly reports to come directly to council kind of blurs roles, in my opinion, creates precedent and pulls council into board-level reporting without clear governance benefits. So we have boards that oversee each of these entities, and what the resolution is asking is that council almost become a secondary board, is what I feel like. If there's a concern about compliance with the unanimous shareholders agreement, that should definitely be addressed through our shareholders representatives, rather than changing how council engages with these corporations. So as a shareholder representative, I'm happy to bring, as one of those people, I'm happy to bring the concerns to the meeting. As in the past, traditionally, members of council have been welcome at those shareholder meetings, at the board meetings, as onlookers, as if they have questions, they can send those questions to those who represent council. There are lots of other avenues that don't require a quarterly report to council. So I'm happy with the way things are, but I understand Councillor Davoli's concerns about the USA, and maybe there are things we could do to tweak the way that the reporting's coming through. But I don't think that this is the way to do it.
Councillor Sharwell.
Through Mayor Dern, thank you. This is pretty clear to me. You know, we all agreed at the beginning of the term that transparency, accountability, 100% is a key priority. We've, you know, it's in our strategic priorities. We talk about it all the time. There is a clause in our shareholders agreement that requires this. So just to say that 3 of you that have, you know, last time did not vote in favor of this, you have that information. The rest of us do not have this information. So it's not enough for 3 representatives to see that and get all that information and the rest of us not. The requirement is that council receive this information. So I am going to be supporting this. I think it, you know, it is the responsible thing to do. We've seen how kind of turning the blind eye has turned out in other you know, with the biodigester. Not saying that this is in any way the same, obviously. I don't even have that information, but I think the responsibility is that all of us see this information and that we are aware of what's going on. That's why we were voted into council, so I will be supporting.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. I've been listening to a lot of my colleagues about this issue, some for, some against. So you know, I've supported this in order for it to get on the agenda. I do agree that we need to have information coming forth to us regularly. So if it's an issue, and I also hear my colleague, Councillor Frake, say that the timing is really off. And of course, we all receive the, we're all part of the AGM when it comes to June. So if we support the intent of this, if we could modify this in 2 ways. One, that we support we support GPI MPI to, you know, come here 4 times a year and talk about, give us an update of what's happening, how things are going. I view that as being very positive. The other thing that I would support would be for GPI MPI to go back and review the United Shareholders or Unanimous Shareholders Agreement, because it really is, you know, as Councillor Davoli has said, it's hard to find what was the latest version, what it was saying. So, so I find myself supporting supporting the intent of bringing information forward, but maybe looking at having the USA fit into a reporting structure that is more aligned with the company's actual business. So I don't know if anybody agrees with me on that, if we could amend this motion, I'm not sure that Councillor Davoli would agree or not, but I guess what I'm suggesting is that we amend the motion to do two things. One, support them coming forward 4 times a year, and one of those 4 times is the AGM. And the other thing is to request that they do a review of the shareholder agreement so that it is updated. Thank you.
The motion already says it's 4 times a year, and I believe that changing the shareholders agreement would be a whole separate resolution. And Sarah and I have been meeting with the chairs of both organizations, and we have it's like they want to be compliant, of course, but we're at the point where this is on the floor, and I think, quite frankly, this is causing maybe the perception of bad blood when I don't think there really is any. So, Councillor Davoli.
Thank you. At the December meeting, of course, that resolution or the notice of motion that was put on the floor was to review the shareholders agreement and to have it looked at. And the majority of council voted not to do that. So unless there is a process to reintroduce that. But at this point in time, this is the motion on the table. And so I do remind everyone that we have a legal agreement. And I think that to not, abide by it, to not go forward with it, is basically to say, and to leave the impression out there that legal agreements are not important and that those who sign on to them do not have to abide by them. And I don't think that's the message we want to convey at all. And so we have an opportunity here and I'm happy to hear that the mayor and the town manager have been speaking with the representatives from those 2 entities. I think we have an opportunity to open up the lines of communication. I think we have an opportunity to show that we respect legal agreements and we abide by them. And we have an opportunity in opening up the lines of communication to actually be able to utilize that dividend that comes and incorporate that information into our budget and to really, make it work for our residents.
Councillor Vardy.
I think then if we could just delete that last line about the Q4 coming forward at the March 9 council meeting and just agree to having having quarterly reports, then I think that would meet the intent of what we're trying to do. Where I respectfully disagree with my colleague, Councillor Davoli, who knows far more about accounting than me, even if we get the money after we do our budgeting, please, even if we receive that money, then we know that money is going to end up going into most likely reserves, which we are either going to have to tax the taxpayer to fill our reserves, or we put this into reserves, which is where it's going to go. So I'm not convinced that the timing issue is really impacting the residents. So I would be amenable, if Councillor Davoli would be amenable, to taking out the last line of the resolution and that they come forward with quarterly reports and just leave out the time frame about the 2025, Q4, being brought forward to the March 9 council meeting. I don't know if you would agree to that, but I would support that.
Councillor Davoli?
If I may speak to it. So currently, and I will use accounting terms, the journal entry when we receive this dividend is our bank account goes up and the investment in our power companies, which is also recorded as an asset on our balance sheet, goes down. So we debit our bank and we credit our investment in our government business enterprises. It is a journal entry that happens on the balance sheet only, never hits our income statement. The only time it can possibly help our residents and actually help save us any money is when we can build it into our budget. And that means that we need to have conversations with these entities early enough so that we can be comfortable that there is a high probability of what we will get, when we will get it, and so on. And currently, even when we budget for our investment income from our external investments, and I know, having talked to many treasurers over the years, that, that too is an estimate. We don't know how much it's going to be exactly. Interest rates can go up, they can go down, and so traditionally, I would say our finance staff take a fairly conservative approach to how much they actually budget, because they don't want to budget too much and then it doesn't come in. So they do budget, what I'll say is a smaller amount. But it's important that we start having these conversations, and so that we have a high probability that we know what the money is and when we will be getting it. And that's just one of the things that can help us. I mean, there are other things. We currently receive interest. We have a promissory note, and it will be coming due early in 2027, right when a new council is coming in and getting used to everything that's going on. There are some matters that need to be discussed with those entities very, very soon, this summer and early fall, basically. There are tax matters that need to be looked at, dividends to come, and interest that's paid to the town are not taxable to us because we're not a taxable entity, but interest that's paid by GPI is a deduction for them and saves them tax. There are all sorts of things that happen between companies, between parent companies and...
Councillor Davoli, the question you were asked was, do you agree to the amendment or not? So...
Then I would be happy to say that no, I wish my resolution to stand as is.
Councillor Frey.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Well, I don't know how those reports are going to help us with our budgeting at the town hall. Consider this current budget, which we approved already. So we don't know what the dividend is going to be until another 3 or 4 or 5 months, till the OEB finishes their due diligence on this. So we can't fit it into the budget anyways. You can't take that out. We're doing our budgets here before the end of the year. We don't know what the dividend is going to be from GPI till 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months later. So it doesn't fit the puzzle. It doesn't fit the time frame. It's not going to happen. So I don't know how you put those things together saying we can do that. We can't. And until the OEB is finished, we don't know what that budget or what the financial statement is going to look like. We just don't know. They could change the whole thing around. And it's going to be 4 or 5 or 6 months later after we pass our budget at Town Hall. So I think we should just, this is going to go on all night because it's me, you, me. So I think we should just move on with this thing and because obviously we're never going to agree.
All right. Everyone's spoken at least twice, sometimes some people more that wants to comment. So we'll call the question now. So I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Davoli, seconded by Councillor Vardy. Whereas the Town of Grimsby and Fortis Ontario Incorporated are shareholders of Niagara Power Incorporated, NPI, and all are parties to a unanimous shareholders agreement, USA, with Grimsby Power Incorporated, GPI. Whereas these our municipally owned assets, and council supports accountability and compliance with legal agreements, whereas there are internal financial reporting requirements contained therein by Grimsby Power Incorporated and Niagara Power Incorporated to the shareholders, and therefore be resolved in accordance with paragraph 2.9 of the USA that GPI and MPI are asked to provide to council as the shareholders the quarterly financial reports in the Q4 2025 be brought forward at the March 9th council meeting. E-scribe vote, please. All right, and that's defeated. Yeah. All right, can I have a mover and seconder for the bylaws? Moved by Councillor Freg, second by Councillor Bradsey. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 26-07 and 26-08, and the same be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? That's carried. All right. There will be a statutory public meeting for the official plan on February 23rd, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. And the next regular council meeting will be held on March 9th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Can I have a mover and seconder to move into closed session to discuss a tax increment grant for 27 John Street? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, seconded by Councillor Charwa. Resolved that council meet in closed session to discuss the tax increment grant for 27 John Street pursuant to subsection 2392K of the Municipal Act. All in favor to go into closed? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone. We're moving into closed now. right, welcome back to open session. Can I have a mover and seconder for the closed session direction? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Bradsey. Resolved that the direction provided in closed session regarding the tax increment grant for 27 John Street be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 26-09 and that same be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you.